Even if you're familiar with EMOMs, today I'll show you a few extra tricks on how to perfect them for your goals. That being said, if you're new to them, EMOMs are one of the best ways to keep your training short and effective using a timer, especially if, like me, you like to train alone, but time seems to slip by you without getting a lot done. Lastly, besides building muscle, EMOMs also improve your conditioning and burn extra fat, helping you therefore hit 3 birds with 1 stone. So, if you're not a fan of traditional cardio, this is one more reason why this style of training might be for you. Check it out. If this is the first time you're trying EMOMs, in a nutshell, what you do is pick an exercise, set a repeat 1-minute countdown timer, and at the start of every minute, you do 1 set with your resting time being whatever time is left before the next minute starts. This way, your timer becomes both your training partner and your coach, telling you when to start, how long to rest, and when to get back to work. And if you lose focus and you're late for your next set, the timer doesn't care. It just punishes you with less resting time for the next round, making sure you don't repeat the same mistake once again. EMOMs also force you to make the most out of your rest, since whenever you finish a set and your mind is looking for a distraction, they leave you no time or energy to scroll on Instagram or TikTok or read the text or email you just got. Your phone is just there, staring at you in the eye, not allowing you to mess with it while making sure you're getting ready for that next round, which is already about to start. The problem with EMOMs is that depending on how many reps you're doing, hey, quick pause, this is Coach Anthony, creator of Bodyweight Muscle. And if you're done avoiding the mirror, if you don't only want to look good, but you also want to perform better in all domains of life that matter for you, whether that's work, being a better father, being a better partner, and anything else that is important to you. If you're not a big fan of the gym and the whole hustle of commuting there, wasting time, having to adjust your schedule according to somebody else's opening hours, then this is what I do, having coached over 100 guys during the last 2 years. So if you want to skip the guesswork, if you want structure, accountability, and the clarity that a coach offers, and you're ready to dial in your training, nutrition, and lifestyle in order to feel like you're in your prime once again, then make sure you fill in the questionnaire in the top pinned comment below. Right after that, we'll schedule a quick free consultation over Zoom, have some coffee, see if we're a good fit, and get to work. The problem with EMOMs is that depending on how many reps you're doing, your resting period can be either too short or too long. For example, if you're doing sets of 7 pull-ups, each rep should take about 3 to 4 seconds. Assuming you're using good form, lowering yourself slowly, pausing at the bottom to kill momentum instead of swinging up and down the bar like a CrossFitter, which is one of the worst ways to train if you want to build muscle without beating up your joints. Done this way, a set of 7 pull-ups should last roughly 30 seconds, leaving you about 30 seconds of rest, which is a good enough balance of work and recovery, since half a minute is the minimum effective resting dose for building muscle with EMOMs. Now, if you're wondering what is the problem with resting less than 30 seconds, you're simply not giving yourself enough time to replenish your phosphocreatine stores, which stimulates the adequate muscle tension required for hypertrophy. Now, if you're doing an easier exercise that allows you more reps, let's say, for example, you're doing sets of 12 push-ups, again, using good form, not bouncing up and down like a pogo stick, all you'll be left with here are barely 15 seconds of rest. Definitely not enough recovery time if you want to push yourself hard in the next round, since you'll be hitting cardiovascular failure before you hit actual muscle failure. So while you do want to challenge yourself with shorter resting periods than usual during EMOM training, resting too little will actually hold you back if you want to build some serious muscle. That being said, there are 2 ways to fix this. Obviously, you can add more weight, making sure you stick to a rep range of 7 or even better, I would say 5 to 6 reps, since personally, I prefer resting for 35 to 40 seconds when focusing more on building muscle rather than conditioning with EMOMs. Or If that's not always practical for you, let's say you're training outdoors with no extra equipment, in this case, you can adjust the timer based on your targeted reps. This involves a little bit of elementary math, but nothing more complicated than that. All you do is simply multiply the average reps you're aiming to get across all sets with 4, which again stands for the average seconds per rep with good form, and add on top of that your desired resting time, whether that's 30 if you want to focus a bit more on conditioning, or 40 if you want to focus a bit more on building muscle, or if you're more of a beginner.
By the way, I know that 10 seconds don't sound like a lot, but they make a big difference when you train hard, as you should do.
So to use the push-up example, again, if you think you can average 10 reps across all sets, multiplying that with 4 gives us 40 seconds of work. Add on top of that another 30 to 40 seconds of rest, and you have a total of 70 to 80 seconds that you want to set on your timer. And although every 70 seconds on 70 seconds doesn't roll off your tongue as smoothly as EMOMs, it's definitely a more effective way to set up your workout. Next, if you want to keep your workout even shorter and even more effective, my favorite variation of EMOMs is what I call super EMOMs. So here's what you do. Just like when you're doing supersets, you want to pick 2 antagonistic exercises like a pull and a push, or a bicep curl and a tricep extension, or you can even choose different body parts. For example, you can do upper and lower and switch back and forth between these 2. For example, start with a set of pull-ups or leg-assisted pull-ups if you're more of a beginner. Rest for 30 to 40 seconds. Next, do a set of dips, or again, if you're more of a beginner, a set of leg-assisted dips or push-ups. Rest for 30 to 40 seconds. Move to pull-ups again. And keep alternating these 2 exercises until you're done with all your rounds. That being said, a practical issue that comes up here is how do you adjust your timer if you're performing different reps for each exercise and therefore you have different resting periods. Now, first of all, download an interval training app on your phone if you don't have one. I'll include the one that I use below, which is free. Keep in mind that some timers also allow you to adjust the time allocated to each round to your preference, but since I find that too tedious, what I do instead is pretty simple. I assign the work time of the interval timer to my first exercise and the resting time of the timer to the second exercise. So once again, if I'm supersetting pull-ups and dips, aiming for 5 pull-ups and 8 dips for each round, what I'll do is I'll set the work time to 1 minute for my pull-ups and the resting time to 70 seconds for my dips. Lastly, if you find yourself getting stronger and getting an extra rep every 1 to 2 weeks, which is what you should be doing if you're aiming to build muscle and improve your physique, all you have to do is add another 4 seconds.
In terms of sets, if you're focusing only on 2 exercises and you're more of a beginner, you can go as high as 6 or maybe even 8 rounds. Or if you're more advanced, you can do up to 10 rounds. Now, if you want to focus on a more whole body workout plan, something like a horizontal pull and push, vertical pull and push, and a hinge and a squat movement, then I would recommend not going higher than 5 to 6 rounds. In terms of reps, if you're focusing on building muscle, honestly, anything between 5 repetitions and 30 will work as long as you're working close to failure. That being said, because working higher than 12 to 15 reps can get pretty boring, I always like to recommend, a rep range between 5 and 12 repetitions nowadays. And once you can do more than those, if you're doing calisthenics, you can add a weighted backpack or move to a more advanced variation. And if you're lifting weights, you can obviously add more weight. Also keep in mind that EMOMs feel pretty easy in the beginning, although they get very quickly hard in a sneaky way, since each resting period feels as if it's getting shorter and shorter, even though it's the same. So make sure you keep a few reps in the tank in the beginning, but also make sure that you're pushing yourself hard enough during the last 2 rounds. In other words, the goal is to get as much rep volume as possible across all sets. So instead of going too hard in the beginning and failing somewhere mid-set, ending up burnt out, again, keep a few reps in the tank, but find also that sweet point of repetitions that brings you to technical failure. If not by the last 2 sets, definitely during that last set. For example, if your best reps across 5 sets look something like this, then you're doing it right. On the other hand, if your reps look something like this, then you probably went too easy in the beginning. That was all. If you have any questions, make sure you leave them below. I always do my best to get back to every single one of you. If you're new here, then make sure you subscribe. And if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, if you want to skip the guesswork and leave it to somebody who has been doing this for over 10 years, so you can go all in and get amazing results while also having somebody holding you accountable, then once again, make sure you fill in the questionnaire below and let's chat. Until next time, keep on training.